This time on Hubnut, my first time driving a Renault 10, and this one is a bit special. It's not the first time we've driven a French car that originally lived in Africa, but it's very different to the first one. So we've driven a Citroën ID that began life in Nigeria. This began life in Mozambique. It was built at the Paris factory and then shipped over to Mozambique, which was then under Portuguese control. Sadly, after a couple of years, things got a bit hairy in Mozambique. Independence was looming. So the owner retreated to Portugal and left this behind, where it stayed in storage for 40 years. It was then shipped over to Portugal eventually, 40 years later. But then spent another 10 years in storage because a right-hand drive car wasn't exactly what you'd want in Portugal. It then somehow found its way over to the UK in the 2000s and is now owned by a lovely chap called Nick, who keeps it in just lovely condition. This is the last of the rear engine Renaults, so we'll have a look in the back in a moment. But what I find quite interesting about these is the middle section is pure Renault 8. The Renault 8 was launched in 1962 and also the same sort of layout. There were famous Gordini versions and itself a development of the Dauphine, but the 10 had a bit of extra length here, a bit of extra length at the front, but was mechanically absolutely identical. If you have a peek at the engine, we might as well. It's right here at the back. I'll lean a bit, fresh rubber on the back. And there we go. I love this latch, by the way. It's very simple. So you just lift up and it just engages in there and it holds the engine cover up. So here we go. This is the Clé Enfant engine, which obviously lived on right through to the Twingos, and the early Clios were available with a derivative of this engine. This is 1289cc, also very common in the Renault 12 at the other end of the vehicle. And I look at the dinky little genuine Renault oil filter. That's a lovely detail. We've got the jack in here, which has been painted the original colour. And yeah, it's kind of inspiring for Skoda in many ways. I love how the exhaust comes jutting down through the floor. This one has had an alternator upgrade from the original dynamo, so there would have been a control box for the dynamo here. So if you're wondering where the radiator is, it's down here. It's under this cover. So there we go. We've got a little metal fan on the back, and then it blows through to this area. So this vent is for your cooling. It's not an ideal location, but it is worth pointing out. It were sold in and even built in some very hot locations. Bulgaria, Romania as a Dacia, and even Spain built these cars under license. So they were quite successful all around the world. Before we get into the full interior look around, come down here, have a look. We've got Renault logo on the accelerator pedal, and this, the Renault logo, is your front storage release. It feels more like a cable than anything. So if I lift up the front,
we're just taking a moment for the interior.
Whoa, we're coming back to that. Here is the trusty backpack. Lots of space here, and because this is extended, you actually get a bit more room. Air France, isn't that lovely? Air France bag. So we've got our brake fluid appears to be under here. It says stop on there. I don't know what you've got your side. Okay, maybe you've got the brake fluid. Is this
only brake fluid?
I don't know what Lave Parabrise. That'll be your screen wash then.
Screen wash.
That's a tiny little bottle, but I'll just take the cap off for you to see. Look at that. Lovely. Unfortunately, the screen wash not working on this example, but we've got ways of getting around that. Don't you worry. Parts are on order. But if you come right round the front and get very low, I'm going to show you where the spare wheel is located. There we go. It's a bit Heath Robinson, but that is your spare wheel storage. He has a new spare on the way, because I think this might even be the original, but he's getting that rebuilt at the moment. And then, what spare wheel? That's quite clever, hidden away at the front. Also lovely fog lights on the front. And I'll just drop the bonnet, which again has two of these automatic holder-uppy things. So this is the facelift front end. Introduced in 1965, 3 years after the smaller 8. The 10 initially had circular headlamps and a side indicator unit here, which I actually think it looks a bit more modern than this setup. But this was the facelift to differentiate it from the round headlamp 8 a bit more. And then you get these indicator side light units, which look quite similar to an MGB in all honesty. But again, lovely Renault logo, and as far as we know, all this paint is original. So, you know, there's little scuff marks here and there, small cracks in the paint. But what do you do? Because this is the original paint. It's an incredible survivor, all those years in storage. So I can't wait to see how it drives. Shall we look at the interior? So yeah, the interior is, it feels a little cramped in here, but we've got original factory leather, which was apparently specified for this car from brand new. And this lovely, I can't decide if this is real or fake wood, but it's a sort of green colour. I think it's absolutely lovely. You've got the full kilometre speedo, fuel gauge, no temperature gauge from factory, so the owner has retrofitted one. And similarly, he has retrofitted a 12-volt power outlet because, you know, they are useful. But yeah, check out the chunky wheel arch intrusion, because the only extension in this car is the nose and tail, so it's longer on the overhangs than a standard Renault 8. But just lovely in here, I think. Lovely condition, beautiful sun visors. Feel far more substantial than the one we broke recently in a Fiat Panda. And then you got the door pull here and the plastic door handle at the top. I just think that's a lovely detail as well. Winding windows, obviously. Just the 1-speed on the heater fan, but you know, we got glove boxes twice, and the upper one has still got the original driving and maintenance manual there. So there you go, it takes you through all the switch gear and all the stuff you need to do to keep this car happy. That's a lovely document to have. But that's just one of 2 glove boxes, because we've also got this one. This one's a little problematic to get into, but there we go, a bit more storage down there as well. Very nice. Shall we see how the rear compares? Oh yeah, it's a bit of a squeeze to get in. God, not many people will have sat here ever. I feel absolutely honoured. But I've got plenty of knee room. I'll spare you the shot of that. Headroom is a little tight, in all honesty. I am actually brushing the headliner. And in the back you only get sliding windows. Oh, there you go. There you go. So you get a fair bit of openage. But yeah, simple sliding windows in the back. I wonder how popular those were in the hotter climates. Each rear door gets an ashtray, because those were the times. In fact, is that an ashtray right in the middle of the dashboard there? Up, 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 up. I think hidden. Is that an ashtray? It looks like it should be, doesn't it? Perhaps not. I'll just look at the gear knob. I noticed that's got the pattern going on as well. Lovely. Right, let's go for a drive. Okay then, fire up the beast. We got it hot. There we go. And we're ready for action. We shall do the windscreen wiper test. So we've got a slight problem with the washers, that the diaphragm is broken, but it's okay. We have manual screen wash. We know how important the wiper test is, so there we go. And then the single speed wipers operate thusly. Good overlap, no triangle of doom, or parking it seems. But they did retain the left-hand drive wiper layout for right-hand drive. But actually it works fine, it covers a lot of screen. A little bit unswept there, but I'm not going to complain. But sounds eager and ready to go, so here we go. Gear lever is a little mechanical because it's quite a long linkage right to the back of the car. Apologies for sandals and knees. Indicators right. This is the light control. You turn it on with this switch and then you can cycle through the various light settings from side lights up to main beam.
I realise you've done a step.
Have I?
You've colour matched the car.
I've colour matched the car. Unintentional, because I'm not as fashionable as Steph. But here we go. Right signal on. I'm going to do my window up so we don't get too much wind noise. Very glad of these fresh air vents. And it's quite willing, it picks up quite well. It's quite low geared, but thankfully we're only in a 40 limit at the moment. And yeah, it just feels really, really pleasant. The steering's a little woolly, and when you twitch at it, you can kind of feel where the weight is at the back. In terms of handling, these were not superb, although Gordini versions of the Humble 8 were quite good fun, as were the Alpines that were based on this platform. It's just quite weird that this platform dates back to the Dauphine. Oh yeah. Yeah, it does. Oh yeah. You can feel the weight moving around as you steer. It's most peculiar. It is said that these cars were the inspiration for the rear-engine Skodas. Very similar layout, swing axle, rear suspension, 4-cylinder engine mounted longitudinally. But all disc brakes are very welcome here. I think we're going to go that way. We've got some national speed limit. The display is still all in kilometers. So as you accelerate, the engine is a little raucous, but it soon settles down really, and for its time I don't think it's a particularly noisy car at all. Benefit of a rear engine is kind of all the noises behind you. It'll reverberate around the cabin a little. But yeah, it's a peculiar driving position because it feels a bit cramped because it's based on the smaller car, the 8, the entire cabin section, which itself is kind of based on the Dauphine that came before. Same wheelbase as the Dauphine, which itself followed on from the rear engine 4CV. That was the first of Renault's rear engine line, and I guess this kind of represents the end of that line. This car replaced by the Renault 12, which was sort of front engine, longitudinal, front wheel drive. Let's overtake some mad cyclists who appear to be racing each other. Yeah, it does feel a little nervous. We've got quite a bit of wind going on today. But yeah, thankfully we've got some good Michelin rubber to keep us in check. Yeah, the brakes need a good shove, as is fairly typical of cars of this era, but there's plenty of stopping power available. Slow down for the bend. Yeah, I think this is a car you'd have to learn. It's a car you definitely don't lift off mid-bend in. Got a little vibration coming from somewhere, not entirely sure where. No. Somewhere there's a mild vibration going on. But despite the wheel arch intrusion, it is quite a comfortable place to sit. These leather seats, we were a bit worried, sunny day, black leather seats, but leather's a bit more forgiving than vinyl. And it did have leather seats from new, which seems a slightly odd one, maybe part of the export specification. But I mean, the fact this has covered only 21,000 kilometers, I find incredible. To all intents and purposes, this is like a brand new car. I think it's spent 50 years of its life in storage. Yeah, first gear's quite low. In fact, all the gears are fairly low, so you kind of work your way through them in swift order. It's about 40 miles an hour. And we're knocking on the door at 60 miles an hour. And typical of cars of this era, it's a bit short of gearing really, but it's kind of the way they were. But the ride, oh, just lovely, especially after you've been driving around in a Smart. It's not Citroen smooth, but yeah, it does float around quite nicely. It just hasn't got the directional stability of a Citroen or Peugeot. Peugeot 204 was a key rival for this car. That was also front engine, front wheel drive. Peugeot's first with a transverse engine. So you had a real mix of cars available. I'm not sure Citroen really had a direct rival to this car. The Ami was a bit small. The GS just about overlapped with 1 year of production. And then you got the ID, which of course is a much larger car. This was built late in 1970. And production actually ended that year. I think sales lingered on into 1971. And I think the Renault 8 lasted a few more years. But till 1976 in Spain. And here's a fun fact for you. Spanish built Renault 8s had drum rear brakes, whereas all the others had discs all round. Nice and smooth, and you can hear the transmission, but it's not an overbearing noise at all. You definitely have to treat it with respect. There are videos of these going around the Nürburgring 8s and 10s, and it doesn't always end well. If you lose the back end and it then digs in because it's swing axle suspension, it gets too much positive camber, it can roll the car. That is a limitation of these swing axle designs. Right, all the way up to 50. The benefit of the low gearing is it gathers pace pretty well, really. Just find I'm having to make little corrections just to try and keep it in a straight line. Crazy to think that the Alpines are based on this platform. Oh, Chevy Blazer, UK model. Well, I have to say, that was a fun drive. My first time driving a rear-engined Renault for many, many years. And while the handling doesn't entirely inspire confidence, it just gets down the road really nicely. And we found a road where the suspension was a bit too bouncy, but better that than being shocked through the spinal cord. And yeah, the story of this car I find absolutely fascinating. What a survivor. To think it spent 50 years, most of its life, in storage. And thankfully it's been beautifully recommissioned, and it just drives absolutely lovely. So huge thanks to Nick for letting us drive this beautiful car. Huge thanks to you for watching. Don't forget the channel memberships are a thing. You get a free members video once a week. You can also support us on Patreon if you prefer. And the emojis for the channel members as well. So huge thanks to those. There's a great many of you who have supported us as channel members for a very long time. We appreciate it very much. Thank you for watching. Farewell.